your background's so nice and balanced compared to mine. I feel like I'm one of these people I feel like I'm in a nebulous, empty universe with my blank.
Although we have a blackboard in the background, which is pretty weird. But anyway, it's I
think the blackboard's fine. And it seems like there's nice messages. I can see hope. The word hope standing out.
Oh, you can read it?
Is it secret design messages?
No, it says, hope you enjoy your new home. That's what our landlord wrote on it before we moved in, which is pretty nice.
Oh my goodness. How nice is that?
And welcome back to Melbourne, Damien and Jess. That's pretty nice. Like that was by the landlord as well. So.
Oh, yeah. What landlord is this? Where have they come from?
I don't know. His name's Sam. He seems pretty nice. We've never met him, but he sends nice emails.
Very nice person, I think. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to NAM 33.4, I believe we're up to. Yes, we're about to do an amazing talk with the lovely ladies from Fowler Ward. Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Good, thank you.
Doing well?
Very happy to be out of the house.
Oh, you're out of it. So you're now in a new
Jessie's house.
In my house.
Okay, cool. And how's it going? It's all fitted out, or are you just going to wait a little while, or
what the house?
To get all ready for work and everything.
Well, the work is plodding along. We've been working from home over the last whatever time it's been, 7-8 weeks. But we do have a little office space, which is just sitting empty at the moment. So we've been working at our kitchen table. Well, me and my kitchen table. Tara's got a real desk.
Yeah.
And we hope to get back in our space in the same room together soon, like more than just right this moment. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Well, at least it's a nice thing to look forward to. It'll be a nice way to sort of break up all of the weirdness of this time, I guess, to be able to move into a brand new space. Cool. Well, before we get cracking, we might just say a quick thank you to our lovely sponsors who keep us moving along in the life and in architecture. So the first up is our amazing institutional partner, MARTA, the people at Monash University Art, Design and Architecture. They're still doing an amazing job supporting their students and their staff, both full-time staff and sessional staff. So good on everyone at Monash. For all of the people who are NAM regulars, if you're a sessional person, good on you for doing an amazing job taking care of your students. We know it's been a really tough time, so good on you. And those are the lovely sounds of fluid that come during the NAM Friday drinks. And our other lovely sponsor is Hames, the people at Hames who have paint that will keep you going and going forever and until their warranty runs out. Thank you so much, Hames. You're amazing guys. They're an amazing company, local guys, and they have been doing everything they can to support architects during this time. If you can't get out to one of their showrooms to see their brush outs or to see their swatches, they're doing everything they can to support architects around Australia. So, please, if you're going to be specifying paints, give them a look because they do amazing paints and they're local. So, please support them. They support us. So, let's talk architecture. Let's talk Fowler Ward. Now, you've already mentioned that you've got an office space, but right now you're working from home. Any other little things that you guys have had to deal with coronavirus since the beginning of 2020?
I mean, it's pretty weird to make a decision to start a business and kind of do it for 3 weeks and then be separated. I think with, Zoom and things like that, it's obviously been so helpful. Tara and I probably spend 40% of the day talking to each other.
Whether it's like messaging or Zooming and sharing our screens. Or texting.
Yeah. There's been a few kind of like quick drives into the office to pick up random bits and pieces that were forgotten or bits of paper we need. But I mean, it's been been easier than we thought. I guess because we weren't into a rhythm of being in the office together. But we're really, part of the reason we are in this business is to sort of work together. Neither of us wanted to do this on our own, and
so
that's
been a bit strange.
But it seems like it's good now that you're in one of your houses so that you can work together and you can make that work, which is
But
cool.
we're not working from the house together. We're just doing this from the house together, to be honest.
You've done this just for us?
Yeah, just for you. Well,
it's also a bit our first social outing. And
Dan's let us hang out with 3 other people. So we're taking advantage of it. And that's why we're here tonight. We're not always here. And over the last week as well, we've sort of had a couple of meetings and things like that for new projects where it's actually a chance to go to a site and see a building and, kind of wave at your new clients, wave at your potential client, no handshaking and stand very far away from them. But it's just been a nice reintroduction back into the world, not just like sitting cooped up all day. So, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, that's really good. Well, let's talk about some of your projects. Now that we've got the coronavirus stuff out of the way, let's do a cheers. So what are you drinking tonight?
We're drinking a drink called a La Paloma, which I don't even really know what's in it, but it's really good and it's quite grapefruity. Tequila. Dave, we've had a chime in from the background. It's tequila.
Yeah, I heard someone from the peanut gallery just come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that your barman?
That's our in-house barman, Damien. But I would like to say that we live in the city, and Hell's Kitchen, which is, a fantastic bar, which I hope heaps of you know, have been doing takeaway cocktails.
Architectural conversations there over years.
And they've been doing takeaway cocktails the whole lockdown, and we live just around the corner. So we've been really trying to support the businesses we love, so they're still there at the end of this. And that's where we got them from tonight. So it's pretty awesome. So Russ at Hell's Kitchen, support him if you're in the city.
Got to give them a plug. They support so many architects who are going. Do they also deliver? Should we also mention, do they deliver?
They only deliver within a few blocks, but
they got to live in the city.
Yeah, they're doing delivery by foot. But I think more and more people will have excuses to be in the city. So if you're in for some reason and you're heading home, just pick one up.
Hard sell. It's delicious.
They are delicious. I mean, they're a Melbourne institution now, so I think that's good that they're still serving the public well.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. So before we get into some projects that you guys want to talk about, for everyone who's watching, please just remember that in the chat window, if you do want to ask a question, please just type out a little question in the chat window, and I can interject and interrupt, and I can be the mean one for you guys, and we can ask the ladies a question. So, okay. What?
Yeah, no hard questions.
No hard questions, just some softballs.
Complimentary.
All right, and then we'll get harder and harder as we go along. Cool. All right, so what project do you guys want to first tell us about?
Well, we kind of started these first 2 projects that we've put up on the screen are actually both little projects that Jessie and I did
for ourselves,
like years and years ago, as just to kind of get a taste of what it's like to actually do a bit of a DIY renovation, and then really work with small spaces. So
the plywood, the 2 real images, the 2 finished images are of Tara's amazing apartment that she no longer lives in. Unfortunately, the renovation I did of my own apartment was so long ago that we don't really like any of the things we picked in it. So
well, it's no longer on trend. So
it's no longer on trend. That's it. So there's a picture of demolition. But I think the amazing thing about that project, and similar with Tara's, a tiny bit bigger, but my first project on my own it's a 28 square metre apartment. So it was sort of like starting from the absolute minimum you could possibly do. Like that image is taken from one corner of the apartment and you can pretty much see like the rest of it. That's almost how small it is. And I think the reason we put this as our first sort of slide is we still love that kind of challenge. We love using space really effectively and just making it work kind of as hard as it can, but also feel good. And so these were sort of like baptism of fire projects, and we were both doing them you know, there were personal projects. You were sort of like there on the weekend cleaning up and painting and laying floors and doing all that kind of crap. But it's a good, it was a good entry into things.
But it feels like it's almost something that all architects should have a crack at some point, isn't it? Because once you start to do that, you have to deal with some very, very real, monetary considerations, material considerations. I mean, the big thing is, sometimes the things that you draw, you don't realise how much they might cost. Was that something you really had to deal with when you were doing your own places?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even just with my apartment, having to live in it and live in 40 square meters with my partner, the two of us in there. It's like everything has to have its place. Otherwise, it feels like a total mess. So they're often the hardest projects to design, doing stuff for yourself, but it's very rewarding, or you learn a lot from it.
Yeah, budget's always a big driver. And it's it's not more important, but of course, when it's your money, and when you're, we were both doing these projects a few years ago, like neither of us had much money. We still don't have much money, but we had even less then. And so you really have a finite endpoint, and you have to learn how to prioritize really well. You can't sort of convince your client that this is worth it or not worth it, because you just don't have access to the money.
Yeah.
So,
oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, I feel like, so my journey was, I worked at a massive practice, then went to a small practice. And just because of the time in the massive practice, it was like, oh, that will only cost you 20 grand, that sort of thing. And then you go to a small practice and it's like, oh, you have to start thinking, like, oh, that'll only cost you $100 or something like that. It's sort of, you had this weird
different spectrum.
And was that something that you guys sort of found when you went into your own project? It was like, oh, the scale has to change in a
I don't know. I think that
we had both started from that point. We hadn't really been in the big practices.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been a bit smart as a student, but, as a student, you've got no idea. Just, doing whatever you're told. But.
And I think working for Claire Cousins, we're always conscious of every little decision. So I think it's always been part of the way we design, trying to get the best bang for your buck. So,
although I started mine before I was at Claire.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
there you go.
Yeah. Oh, so you both work for Claire Cousins, or?
Yeah, we're both Claire alumni, which we're very proud of.
Yeah.
So I was only there for about 3 years, and then I moved overseas for quite a few years, and Tara was there for a very long time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm sure you had very good footing by working for Claire. I mean, I had a mate where he came into Melbourne, and we were staying at the Claire Cousins apartment while he was there. And right after Grove Street. Is that where it was, I think? Maybe?
Sorry, which one?
It's this little... It's where everything's done in plywood.
Yeah, that's Flinders Lane. So that was actually one of the first projects I worked on with a great colleague of ours, Dita, who's doing other amazing things now as well. But we worked on that together when I first started at Claire's, and that was really fun. It's such a cool project. And and it's a great building.
Oh yeah, it's just when there's a great building with great bones like that, it must be really really great to try to insert something into that. Cool. So is this if this was the starting point, where did you guys move to after that? What have we got next?
Well, this was a starting point like a long time before we really. So Tara and I have actually known each other since we were like 18-year-olds. We met first year uni, and we connected over the fact that we had matching Dangerfield pants on. So, we were really aligned from the beginning. And this kind of idea of starting a practice has really been one of those things that was sort of something we just had a few beers and laughed about, but we didn't really know if it would happen, and we weren't really actively working towards it. But over the years, what happened is we both ended up working on projects for friends and family, and sometimes one of us would need a bit of help. I also had the big issue with the project that's just come up now, which is our Flinders Street apartment, which is that I sort of got the project for a really great old friend while I was in the States. So while I was doing the bulk of the work, I really had to say to Tara, please, can you, pick up these samples or answer this phone call because it's like 3 a.m. in the morning for me. So it's sort of, I guess, you know, we've always been close friends. We knew how we would work together really well, and we've worked together both at university and in other jobs. And when I moved back from overseas, it was sort of like, all right, are we going to do this or not? And I think it's been great because it means at the beginning of this whole journey for us, we already have some finished work. And we also know what it's like to work with one another, which is pretty important. And we're very aligned in our sort of process and thinking, and
or even just being able to question each other and interrogate, not feel like having that uncomfortable feeling when you're both trying to design together.
Well, yeah, it seems like that's such a huge part of it, isn't it? When you can ask a question or even say to someone, look, I really need this right now. It's sort of the two different sides of the scale where you need to draw something out together, but then you also need to be like, this is how I need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Tara's markups are like terrifying, but I just suck them up and I do them. And
it seems like you guys really have each other's back, which is not. No.
But I think also from a design perspective, it's we were sort of talking about this the other day. We probably, while sort of 70 or 80% overlaps, we sort of almost have these like pockets of things that we probably address a bit differently.
On two different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Maybe together we have created something different that we couldn't have done individually.
Yeah, we sort of push each other out of our comfort zones a bit, but we think the end product's probably stronger for the fact that we're both coming at it from slightly different perspectives. Yeah.
But also trying to get to a point where we're both happy. Like it's not like, which can be challenging, but I think it's better for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I'd love to see if someone could draw a diagram of that where it's like, I've got, you can sort of show each of the people and then be like, okay, this is what we all have in our head, and then try to draw a diagram of how they're meant to all sort of mix and combine in.
I think also when you have something in your head as a designer, obviously as architects, we have all these tools to explain it, like drawings and 3D models and stuff. But when you're designing something collaboratively, you don't necessarily have the time. And especially when we've been on Zoom, you can't kind of quickly scribble a sketch and sort of show it that easily. So I think one of the benefits we have is the fact that I think because we've worked together for so long, one of us can just talk about an idea and the other person can kind of quickly get an understanding of where that's headed. So
that helps, yeah.
I think if you were designing and someone you haven't designed with, you'd really have to, it would take a while to get to that point to be confident that they even sort of understand
what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it seems like, when any grad or student might work at a firm, at the first few months, you're sort of figuring out if that design language is there, when you're talking about certain references and saying when you say, it'd be really nice if we did something like a Carlo Scarpa detail in that corner, and everyone's like, oh yeah. Someone's like, yeah, totally. That'd be great.
God, if they didn't register that, they'd be gone.
It seems like it's a lovely arrangement that you guys have. In terms of
so good.
With this apartment, tell us a little bit about how did that relate to this sort of apartment? What do we have going on here?
So this apartment is in a pretty awesome apartment building up the top end of Burke Street. It's a sort of, I think it's 1981, the building, and it's a sort of low rise. It's only 3 stories at Burke Street. It gets a bit higher towards the back building, and it's got really incredible spaces within it. It's got sort of 2 light wells that service a range of apartments. And actually, we saw this apartment early on, but since then I've been in a couple of others with Liv for anyway. And it's a really crazy plan in there. The apartments are all lots of octagons, and as you can see, like there's levels, and it's pretty mental.
But they're all really generous, and I think there's so many of these buildings throughout the city and maybe Melbourne that aren't really appreciated. And so it's really amazing that these guys saw the opportunity for what it is to actually create something amazing and really livable. And they have a family, and you know, for now they're comfortable there, and hopefully they'll be comfortable there for a long time.
Oh, I can see that comment. Random bulkheads. Look,
that's all concrete.
That's all concrete.
You can see how the living room steps up. That's stepping up in the floor above.
So it's definitely wacky, and we were working with wacky forms, but we sort of embraced it. And for instance, this, we didn't raise the lounge room. It was like this, but it was a really awkward space before. It had like a solid half-height wall dividing it, and it felt like a very separate part of the apartment. So what we chose to do with these random bulkheads and weird ceiling heights and weird floor levels was try and kind of color block these zones to create openness through the apartment, but also really keep
some defined spaces.
Yeah, defined spaces. So there's another area, which I don't know if we've got a picture of, but a very, very low, landlocked, natural light free corridor, and we treated that in a similar way. Just really went sort of hard with the color and texture, and it's a bit of a kind of weird tunnel you come through before you enter.
It's really bright
this
space.
End part. Sorry, we're not being defensive or anything. Saying
No.
Like
No, but I mean, I think that's a good distinction to make, because if you've got the ceiling cut, you know, recessing up like that, but then the floor is also doing that, and those two things, definitely the bottom thing can't change, you know, too much.
No.
But you know, you have to really work with these very, very difficult constraints, and keeping it open makes more sense. So it's, you know, how do you then treat it in a nice way?
You know, the usual problems, like the budget on this job was not huge by any stretch of the imagination. So kind of reconfiguring sprinklers, all those kind of things were just considerations that we couldn't really, take advantage of. So I think, like for all of us, and especially when you're a sort of new practice and you're working with people that do have limited budgets most of the time, it's really about deciding what the big impact moves are, and because you can't do everything.
No, yeah, I think and it seems like, you know, what you were learning on your own places as well translated really well into a place like this. If it's got a small budget, and there's also difficult constraints, you can start to see. All right, guys, here's the low-hanging fruit. This is what we go for.
Exactly. And I mean, the reality is that same sort of approach, I think, ends up applying to, most jobs, no matter what the scale is. I sort of find that when I was living in the States, I was doing projects for Google, and even Google didn't have as much money. They didn't have the budget that matched their brief. So I think it's a good skill to learn, really being able to, having the client understand that you're on their side. You're picking the moments that matter. You're prioritizing things like with a sensible hat on, and being able to sell that back to them. So it doesn't seem like you're just, sort of burning money everywhere.
or that it's going to be underwhelming at the end of it. Like, you still want people to be excited about it while you're meeting the budget.
Yeah, I guess that's the weird thing. It's like you want to show them design things that excite them, and not just meeting the budget being the exciting.
Not just the spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, well, it looks like it was worked out really well. Is this the? Or do you have other photos of this apartment, or?
I can't remember what we gave you.
We just did a small selection of a couple.
That's nice. Tasteful selection.
Jump on our.
We have a few on our
page website.
Yeah, we have a few on the holding page, but a real website is not too far away. So we do have a lot more photos. We just haven't.
That's cool.
Just a little sneak.
Okay. So what have we got? So what have we got next?
So next is a townhouse development in Thornbury. I guess we put it in here as an example of another project that's really family and friends. So this is a development for my brother and his in-laws.
Nice.
We just finished Thornbury. Well, actually, it finished a while ago, but it was trying to squeeze two houses onto relatively small block in very suburban Thornbury, where there's so many examples of very poor townhouse developments. So trying to do it in a way that's much more sensitive and also that feels really generous and bright and airy and doesn't feel compromised by the space. And we were there today, and the sun was streaming in. Even though it's a south-facing backyard, the sun was streaming in through our big north-facing windows, and it just felt really beautiful. So
it's always satisfying when, there's no sun in summer, and then you go there in the middle of winter and you're like, just like the diagram.
Yeah.
So
actually, Anna, I explained to the clients, Stephen and Anna, that the light was going to come through these windows and come down and wash onto this reverse brick veneer wall that we've got internally. And Anna said to me in summer, I don't think it actually works. There's no light that comes in the window. And I explained to her, oh no, that's what the sunshade's for. It will come back in winter. And sure enough, it's there. And she's it's nice to demonstrate those fundamental architectural basic design principles in it.
Well, that's amazing as well, that if you were out there recently, I mean, if it's the beginning of winter and it's already working, that sort of a sun shading thing where it's, a summer winter thing. So that's wonderful if it's already working.
That science and services class paid off. So.
Well, so is this the only page of this project?
Yeah.
Do we have any other pictures?
Based on what we're seeing here, is it a front and back arrangement, or are they side by side?
No, side by side. So that picture you can see on the left, the sort of thickened wall in the centre is the party wall.
Cool. Okay.
So we really intentionally, Tara was sort of the driving force in this project, but the intention was really to have this read as a single form from the street. And really to be able to deal with some of those issues that are so common in dual lot townhouse subdivisions, which is, 2 garage doors, 2 driveways, 2 matching porticos, it's kind of like all the elements are here, but we thought, we think that like the one single form means they're, the symmetry is removed and it sits within the streetscape a million times better.
Yeah. Well, just from these 3 photos, I mean, I can see that you guys love asymmetry and you make it work really beautifully.
I thought you were going to say ply.
No. Well, you make the ply work to your advantage. I think. It's really, really lovely. So tell us a little bit about the materials throughout, because I'm looking at this lovely splashback in the kitchen. What have we got going on there?
That's actually grey sardo granite. So granite we love because it's, compared to other natural stones, relatively inexpensive, and it's very forgiving and durable, and it feels and looks amazing in the space. I think that was the kind of one moment of splashing out in the project, but it's worth it. Yes. The material palette generally is pretty simple. It is fairly white on white, but there's a beautiful heritage cul-de-sac just across the road with all of these, it's all red and cream brick kind of interwar houses, and they've all got this beautiful white steel detailing. And so this house is kind of an inversion of that, where we've got this white house with lots of different white textures. But then there's a couple of moments of the red and cream brick, which kind of identify the 2 different houses. So one of them's got the kind of red brick letterbox and stoop at the front. And then the other one's we've got kind of a matching cream brick and cream brick at the entry. So it just helps to give them a bit of their own individual identity and kind of relate back to neighbouring properties in the street.
Yeah, very nice. So on the right side, from like if we're looking at the facade, that's also like a carport, is it? And then we've got
yeah. It's a carport. Cool. So it's behind that gate is a parking spot. So Tara's brother Stephen is a tradie, and it was very important to him to have sort of secure parking. But of course, parking is just like unbelievable how much time you spend thinking about it, especially with
how much time council spends thinking.
Yeah, how much time council spends thinking about it, and they don't want to see it, but they want it. It's just like a nightmare. But we ended up being able to get through a scheme where one townhouse obviously has an enclosed garage, which you can see far to the left, but hopefully it's recessive enough that it's not screaming garage. And then the other side has the slightly undercover carport.
And the actual enclosed garage has been designed, it's actually, Irene's using it as a yoga studio at the moment. So it's got lots of natural light. It kind of feels amazing, and it doesn't necessarily look like a garage. So she didn't necessarily want an internal garage, but had to provide it for council, and so we've made it work.
Right. So is there like a balcony as well that extends above the?
Not a balcony, it's a parapet, but kind of made it work. There's a planter box up there. This project was actually a real struggle with council, and believe it or not, it is one of the most difficult projects I've ever had to take through council. And I don't know if that's just the particular council that we were with or what, but we really had to work with them to get them on board. And normally projects hate first floor setbacks, they hate, side setbacks and wedding cake kind of forms. So initially was resistant, but to including the setback. But
and when you
this kind of parapet,
do you mean like the actual pre-app? Were they looking at this and just going like, no, it doesn't make, no, come on.
Well, it went through multiple iterations, and it was actually after I submitted the application that I had multiple rounds talking with them and revisions and iterations. But I think in the end it's better for it. There's a lot of thought and attention and love that's gone into the entry sequence, and it's got a real connection with the street, that it feels private. It's the open glazing to the street has the stairs directly behind it, so there's a little bit of privacy, but it's still quite open. And the different porch, kind of the way the porches are treated separately, one with the blade awning and one with this actual deep porch, helps the garage doors disappear. It creates a bit of a different identity, even though it's one singular element and reads like one building. So kind of all worth it in the end.
But it was really painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it must have been really painful. But then, the result is the proof, right? So.
Yeah. And we actually, when we were having it photographed with the wonderful Tom Ross, we were sort of across in the cul-de-sac trying to get a sort of longer shot of it, and a neighbour from there came out and said, "Oh, can we get your number? We love it." And
wow.
He hasn't actually called, but it's
a nice testament that people in the neighbourhood
don't hate it,
actually like it.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of the opposite of what normally happens with these kind of developments.
Absolutely. Well, that's that's probably one of the best tests, isn't it, to see if it's successful. If people come out and they see you taking photos and they don't want to get your number so that they can give it to their lawyer.
Yeah, you missed your chance, mate.
That's right. That's right. All right. So what have we got? What have we got next? I mean, I'm just from my own feelings of the last project, though, it just seems like the result is it's very, very friendly. It's a very friendly looking building to the street.
Yeah.
It's definitely not an imposing building. It's a lovely.
It's not like an architectural monument.
Yeah, and it's still like neighbourhoody, and it's a great use of the sort of, I guess you'd probably still call it an infill site because it was a single site before and now it's two. So it's a beautiful use of the site.
And we're pretty happy that we got to do a job like that. I mean, we are really big. We strongly think that, increased density in Melbourne is pretty important. But I think we're all so familiar with projects that increase density at quite a significant cost to the sort of base of the suburbs we really love. So, I mean, we love projects that manage to do that, but in a sort of more responsible and a more, sustainable way. And I think actually that's a good lead on to this one, which is a similar thing. This one doesn't have to respond to a street at all because it's like a new house in the backyard of an existing building. So this is also a project that started when I was overseas. It's kind of like friends of my dad, who knows? But they're a lovely couple who had been living with their three kids have grown up in this big double-story. It's a double-fronted Victorian at the front with this sort of 90s double-story Victorian faux Victorian addition on the back. And they wanted to downsize. It's in Kensington. They really wanted to stay in the neighbourhood they loved, and they'd lived for years and years and years. And so they had a decent sized backyard for Kensington, but I mean, it's still pretty small with laneway access off the back. And they said, hey, can we build a little house out here? So we haven't had this photographed yet. The guy that built the stairs took a couple of nice pictures, which we have put on the slide.
Hang on. Are these photos done by the guy who did the stairs?
Well, I think he had a photographer, but
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we haven't put nice furniture in it yet. So it just when it was all finished.
Still nice. It's still really good.
Yeah, we were pretty.
Is that in his list of skills that he has on his website?
Yeah.
Manufacturer / photographer.
So,
Yeah.
I think we'd just love to get some photos with it furnished later, so you can understand the scale. And it's a two bedrooms upstairs, and then primary, like the ground floor is predominantly living area with a what was a powder room, but we managed to squeeze a shower in, and a little courtyard. So we think like we're so happy with this project, but particularly the concept, being able to
increase density and
double the density on this side as well.
And create this other small footprint house that works really well and does everything it needs to, but still is, you know, complementary to the neighbourhood. So it's what you
So when you say small footprint,
about 100.
not both floors, but just like what's the actual footprint of the house?
Yeah, so it's 113 altogether. So I guess it's
two
about
stories.
60, a bit less than 60, probably 60 on the ground floor, a bit less upstairs.
660 square metres.
No, 60 square metres.
Ah, okay. I was just okay, yeah, 60 square metres on the ground floor. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
It's 113 altogether, I think, around about.
Right.
Yeah.
And in contrast to the last project, this is in City of Melbourne, and
Yes.
That's good. So it wasn't as painful as the last council.
I mean, not even within the realm of it. I think the lovely thing about working with the City of Melbourne, and we've got actually a project that I'm working on for myself in the City of Melbourne as well, is that they're just so supportive of this kind of work. I mean, as long as you go into it with the right hat on and you're really thinking about overshadowing and your neighbours and overlooking and all those issues, they want to encourage this kind of development, and they don't care about parking. They're very supportive of you not including parking if you acknowledge that you won't be able to park on the street. So if you're happy to lead a car-free life, I mean, maybe I shouldn't be spruiking this. City of Melbourne might be like, be quiet, but they just have a completely different perspective, and I think they're very keen on making municipality, you know, less car dependent and denser in a way that keeps these kind of inner Melbourne suburbs retaining their character. So
yeah, well, it sort of seems like City of Melbourne kind of gets as well that, as you were saying before, you know, there's a lot of people who take a site and say, okay, how do we absolutely maximise what we can get on there? And then there are people who are saying, okay, how do we just add one other thing? And then I think it seems like City of Melbourne is a bit like, you know, you're still increasing density, but you're not trying to absolutely jam every single square inch of that site that you can. So,
well, I am really jamming it on the other one. But the other site's only 72 square metres, the whole site. So there's like not much choice but to jam. But it is, I think, they get behind the concept. They sort of get it, and they want the city to be like active and have a variety of different housing types, and especially if you're doing these kind of developments where you're retaining heritage buildings at the front and you're retaining the streetscape, I think they're like very supportive of it.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. And have we got another project coming up after this one?
I don't remember.
This is our last slide.
It's
just our workspaces and one that's on our desk. So the projects that are on our desk. So this is just a little render of a project that came to us
during lockdown.
Yeah.
Hang on, so what is the image on the left? Is the image on the left isn't a render though, is it?
No. Sorry, the green
in the top right corner.
The green building is it's a real project, but it's a rendering.
Yeah. So where is that project?
So that is in Collingwood.
Okay. Very nice.
it's been really interesting. Our phone has been ringing quite a bit, which is really
exciting and flattering.
Yeah, and I guess to be able to work on more high density housing projects is, you know, I think it's what we're passionate about, and it's exciting to be able to do that again. This one's for a developer, so we'll see how it goes. It's gone pretty smoothly so far.
Cool. So you're going to be dealing with the city of Yarra. How do you think they're going to like the tree in the middle of the street?
Oh, that's already there.
We just haven't modelled the parking curb. We tried to make it small so you wouldn't look in too much detail, but we failed.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so how many apartments are we talking
just
about?
Two townhouses.
Okay, very cool. Okay.
Yeah. So they're pretty generous, 3-bedroom townhouses, but 2 of them. And so it's pretty early stage. We haven't gone to council yet. That's sort of soon, but we're really excited about it. And the picture on the left, which is currently where Tara and I are sitting while we do this Zoom with you.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then we wanted to joke that, like,
where you are.
Yeah, exactly. Although the paper lantern, because this is a rental, was stuck to the ceiling with a 3M hook, and it like fell down right onto the keyboard of my partner's computer while he was working one day, and nearly gave him a cardiac arrest. So that's not up there now. But the other
Jessie
desk
was joking. She this isn't actually my workspace. It
Really?
was my workspace for a long time, but I've since moved on. And Jessie,
I told her to put a picture of the real
picture in, but you know, I do work here, and I just wanted to include. This is my isolation buddy Stanley, who's been keeping me company working from home. So,
but that's good. I think it's. Some people might have the idea that architecture can't happen unless it's in a perfectly curated space and place, and it's so much stuff happens. So much beautiful stuff has happened in the past and is still happening on people's kitchen benches.
Yeah.
Beside a big pile of paper. That's
exactly
how it normally looks.
My desk is like. That kitchen table in mine as well is not looking like that. That was first day of lockdown. But you can see there's a lot more stuff. And normally my partner Damien is sitting in that black chair. So we spend a lot of time very close to one another, but it's been going okay.
Right. So you haven't been programming in some walks outside just for no reason?
There's been lots of walks, but we live in a 1-bedroom city apartment with no balcony. If we didn't have walks, we would have.
Yeah.
No. So lots of walking.
No, I think that's one of the great things about COVID-19 is it's highlighted the boundaries in relationships well, which is a blessing and a curse. But no, it's been good. And so I just wanted to know, it's awesome seeing the projects that you've shown us tonight. And we were talking before we started tonight that I really like your Instagram and your website, and that you're showing just enough of the work that you've done and the work that you're doing. Is there a project that you think, you've said that you would love to do more of the high density infill projects? Is that sort of the ultimate goal, or is there something that you haven't got to have a taste of yourselves that you'd love to take on?
I don't know. I think we're just enjoying trying our hands at whatever comes our way at the moment, but I'm sure we'll develop more of an opinion as we progress.
I think
about you, Jess.
Well, I agree. We are enjoying whatever comes our way at the moment. And it's always fun, when you've been kind of working on housing for ages, to sort of jump onto the craziness of retail briefly and do something you wouldn't be able to do in a house, for instance. But I think both of our passions really lie in kind of contributing to the city we really love.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know for me, every time I see a building I love that's been demolished, or the fact that I live in the CBD and so much of the north end of the city up near Vic Market, the sort of back streets that I used to love walking to, that were full of these sort of low-rise warehouses, are all towers now. And you know, cities grow and it's great, and the amount of, you know, residents that live in the city now means the CBD is a really dynamic place and it's really interesting. But I think we love doing projects and thinking about increased density in a way that retains some of the character that we think really, you know, makes Melbourne special. I lived in Boston for 4 years, and I don't want to badmouth Boston. I mean, it's got heaps of great stuff, but you really realise how much character this city has, and the kind of spaces that exist in the city that allow creative people to explore their art or their music or whatever it is. You know, they're constantly becoming less and less. But I think, you know, we would just love to be involved in projects that mean that stuff continues and the character is retained to a degree, even though we know change is inevitable. So even if it's just a little piece of that, I think that's the kind of stuff we care about. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely.
A few shots in the meantime.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the lovely things. I've only seen a couple of snapshots of things that look like there may be retail projects and commercial projects on your website. But yeah, I think that's one of the things, isn't it? That once you are doing apartments and things, you're seeing that side of people's lives and seeing how you can contribute to that. And then, just like you were talking about, art, music, anything to do with culture, where you can think, design spaces where people can contribute to society and in community in that way. I mean, that would be so fantastic to work on those projects.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream, right? But we'll see. Yeah. We've done a couple of workspaces as well, and I quite like those. I think, you know, we all spend not at the moment, but most people spend so much time in offices as well that I think it's good to put the same level of consideration into how those spaces operate. So they're pretty cool.
It's one of those things where I was talking to someone about that the other day, and it's just like, you know, like where you work is quite important, because you sleep, like it's meant to be on average, 8 hours a day, and then you go to work, it's meant to be around 8 hours a day. So it's like a third of your life is going to be in an office, right? So it's a huge portion of your life is really important when it comes to where you're actually working and what those spaces are like. So designing those spaces as well is really an interesting side of things. So if we cycle back to some of the questions we had at the beginning when you were starting your own practice, so we're going back to the group chat now.
Okay.
Someone asked,
bulkhead questions.
We're waiting for I've sifted through all the questions, and I've got this one.
Gotten rid of all the bulkhead questions.
Right. So for anyone out there who's got a burning question and they haven't put it in yet, please do. But yeah, when you guys were starting out, when you were, I guess, just finishing up in uni, did you have a clear vision that you wanted to have your own practice, or did you just think, I just want to graduate and get a job, and then I'll find out if I wanted to work in a practice or have my own practice?
I think I knew.
Probably a bit different.
Yeah. I knew I wanted to have a practice. I think I've grown up in a family of people that run their own businesses, not necessarily very successful businesses, but I think I've just always known the lifestyle of running a business, which is stressful, but you have control over your day-to-day. And I just always knew that's what I was aiming for, but I think I never had there was no real plan to get there. It was like I was working at Bates as a student and for a tiny bit after, and then the chance to work at Claire's came up, and that was really exciting. And then I got the chance to move overseas. So sort of just took advantage of things that came along in the interim. And, I just can't imagine actually starting a practice when we're in straight out of uni. No. I mean, you wouldn't have known anything. I don't know what the hell you would be doing. So I think
I'm sure some people are more than capable, but
that's true. That's true.
Not us.
Not us. I think all the years especially in small practices, well, Claire's not really small now, but in Claire's or in the practice I worked for in Boston called Merge, also run by an incredible female director. And you learn so much working in practices of that scale.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Tara, I think, was a bit of a different, like we said at the start, we sort of joked about it after a lot of beers, but it wasn't really until I moved back from Boston and really kind of, I suppose I took a few months working on a few projects that I had started on while I was overseas and trying to suss out whether this was something I wanted to do. And I realized that I didn't want to do it on my own. It was just too much decision making for one person to handle. I feel like you're making decisions about everything, like your finances, your tax,
the font on your website.
The font, what
Not the
software
font.
you're
Don't
using.
bring up the font. Oh.
Exactly. I'm like, that's not even talking about the architecture questions, right?
Exactly.
Fees, finishes, like
Actually
so.
doing the project work.
It was just decision-making exhaustion. And so then I was like, Tara, are you coming over here or what? But she had such a good job. So
Yeah.
I got her eventually.
All right. So now we're getting questions thick and fast. So I'm just going to reel them
Oh,
off.
God.
First off, do you got like so cost per square meter on your projects? What's the sort of range that you guys have been hitting so far?
Probably, well, what would Live in Billy's be? I don't know.
Houses.
What about, well, your brothers? That was
So
about...
I think that was about Reese is in the background holding up this thing. I think like 3,800 to 4,000 a square meter. But I think the Kensington project would have been
Yeah, that was a lot
that.
less. That was probably low 3s or high 2s, and certainly Liv's place. I mean, it was an interiors only project, but sometimes interiors get really expensive because you're stuffing around with the existing conditions. But I think that was done including all the big custom sofa and stuff like that for under 3. It was about 280 or something. And it's a pretty decent size apartment as well. So, I mean,
having said that, cost of construction gets so expensive every year. So
That's right.
Quoting people more than that now.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like any of those prices, it's so year dependent. It almost needs to have like price and then in brackets the year that price belonged to.
Totally.
But also the builder, if the builder wanted the job and it just like happened, then it all worked out.
I've just got a new client who said to me like they had a lot of friends who are builders, and they've just been told by these other builders who work for like known companies. They were just like, don't use a known company, just stop it. They're like, you'll be able to do it for less. Okay, so what are some surprises or challenges that have come out of starting your own practice that you didn't?
A global pandemic. It's been a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Challenge.
I guess if we were to frame it a little bit differently, was there something where you thought, you start a practice and this is what you need to do, but then all of a sudden, hang on, we need to do that.
I think
we've both been working for so long. It's not, and working for smaller practices, you kind of get a real insight into how the business is run compared to if you're working at a big practice. So,
but I would also go back to what I was saying before about the decision-making exhaustion. For me, I mean, I was running very big projects in the States and I had a lot of responsibility, but the feeling between doing that for your employer versus doing it for yourself, I actually found that very overwhelming. And even though I would make 95% of decisions on my own over there and not run them past the director because she was busy and, whatever, when the buck really stopped with you, I found that challenging. And I was surprised at that. I thought I would sort of have no problem.
That's really interesting. I mean, I find it the reverse.
Oh, really?
I found that when I had to try to make decisions for another company, I was just like, oh my God, if I stuff this up and it's in their name, then I feel horrible. But if it's in my name, I take ownership and I'm just like,
God, maybe I'm a terrible person. No, but I always worked in practices as well where it wasn't a problem to run something past, the person I was working for. And I think
it's just being able to have
a second opinion, someone to bounce things off, sitting in an office on your own, thinking for all that. That I guess maybe just didn't suit me. I really, really did not like it. And it's very different. Just even the two of us, having that second opinion, I think has had a huge impact. And then the only other thing I would say is, I don't know, at the beginning, sort of all the different things you have to spend your time thinking about. I mean, thinking about, like I said before, software or doing your tax or, doing your BAS or this or that, but also getting work, of course. You never have to really think about that when you're working with someone else. But so there's lots of things, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of answered our other question, or one of the other questions, which was about the transition between being employees to running your own practice. And
you can sleep in. You can sleep in.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get the
sleep.
Tara's a morning person, but I'm very happy to be at my desk at like 9:30 or 10. I'm an
She
evening
works
person.
late though.
Yeah, I'm still learning that I can refuse early meetings, but then I'm just like, oh no, they know that I can choose the time, so I better say yes.
I sometimes need them to get going, but I thought you meant refuse meetings for like projects. We haven't got to that yet.
No. No, got to just say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, now which marketing or promotion techniques did you use to obtain more projects at the start and that you've continued to use?
I think we should just point out to people that are asking these questions that the start for us was sort of like 3 or 4 months ago. So we're really, obviously we've had these,
work.
we created our Instagram account literally like in March, I think, or February. So it's really new.
But can I just ask, because you've got projects that are already built, was it really 3 or 4 months ago?
Well, yes, in terms of marketing, all the projects we built before are their friends, their family. They're, like I said before, like that project in Kensington is like, my dad's a salesman and it's like a guy he sells things to. It's one project we did in Newport is Tara's ex-housemate's auntie. Like it's stuff like that. So all those projects were just they came our way and we both were working full time and they either went to Tara or they came to me and we sort of said like, do we want to make a couple of $1,000s to go on holidays this year? That was our thinking. And so in terms of actually actively searching out work, it's really been like less than 6 months really. And certainly that's sort of for me because I was working, and then Tara has only been working in the practice full time since February. So it's really new, but I think it's undeniable that you have to have an Instagram account now. Everyone just engages through Instagram so much, and it's a really, nice platform for having beautiful photos of your work. As you've already told everyone, we have a sort of half-built website. We really made a big effort this year to enter as many awards as we could.
And
that's
to also get these old projects properly photographed. So it's a big expense, but it's kind of crucial to being taken seriously, I think. Being able to demonstrate to potential clients that you're capable.
And we were really hoping, to be going to all the awards things and having a party and socialise and make some good contacts, but I think it'll just be at the kitchen table. So
yeah, it's a huge thing. It sounds like, well, I think you've described it really well, and that like with promotion and marketing, when you're starting out, so much, it's really important to still serve the client. Like that still comes first, and that the other stuff, the marketing and promotion will come second when you've got the projects that you can show. So,
and when you do a good job and people are happy with what you've done, they'll tell other people, and I think that's kind of the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, I think it's so much of any business, I think, is still just making sure that people are happy with what you do with the time that they spend with you. But it sounds like from everything that you've told us about, and people running out to say, give me your card in the street, it sounds like
he didn't call, and we didn't have a business card at the time, so we didn't seem very professional. But
it's nice.
It's nice. It makes me
like the architecture clock, it ticks very slowly. So, they'll be calling you soon. They just need their time.
So you should get business cards.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, it's always the thing, isn't it? It's like, well, things are so digital now. Do we need those sorts of things? Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, Jessie and it's Tara. Tara.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
I know, my name's on the screen, so it's easier to remember.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely hearing about all of your work, and it's beautifully presented and beautifully photographed already, and I can't wait to see what your website and Instagram is going to continue to look like as it develops over time. We hope that you have all the success that you can have possibly in the future. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us some more projects or some more photos of your projects.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
Real pleasure.
All right, guys. Well, thank you everyone for joining us as well. And thank you so much to our sponsors, Marta and Hames Paint. Cheers to everyone. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday.
Yes. So everyone unplug, unwind, be with your people, and we will hopefully see you next week for the next NAM. So cheers everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. See you guys. Thank you so much.